time to go racing.
The pressure is really on now. And it's pole position.
And it's pedal to the metal. Go, go, go!
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the PSGL YouTube channel. My name is Dan, and today we are finally getting ready for the real season 29 of PSGL. You've seen all the preseason and you've seen the placements, but it is the real deal tonight. As previously mentioned, my name is Dan, and today I'm being joined by, and I'm privileged to say it, I'm being joined by Chris Buxton, also known as King Kodiak. And Kodiak, how are you doing tonight?
Ready and raring to go. It has been a great pleasure to become part of the PSGL family, and I'm just looking at the meteoric rise, particularly on the PC side of this league, and looking at the grid as well. Oh, good Lord, this is going to be absolutely epic.
Absolutely. I think on any other league, any other platform, this grid would be F1 caliber by a long shot. But of course, the F1 tier, which is being held tomorrow night, commentated by George Morgan and Jack Canan. That grid is pretty much 90% esports drivers, and we'll get onto the grid in just a moment. But today we are headed to this circuit here, the Bahrain International Circuit in Sakir, 5.412 kilometers long, with 3 DRS zones for the drivers to play with down the straightaways, and a total of 15 corners to navigate on this circuit. And Chris, how do you feel about this track, and what do you think it can really pose for the drivers?
Love this track. I am a big fan of this circuit. It's really, really testing. Of course, you've got those 3 straights, as mentioned, they're the DRS zones, but you've got so much twisty bits in the middle, particularly. Turns pretty much 5 right the way through to 11 are really trying to get right. And it's very, very important to get pretty much every single one bang on. Whilst there is a fair amount of runoff on this circuit, there's generally a fair amount of right foot going on at very key points after turn 10, after turn 13, after turn 3. There's so much the drivers have got to get right lap on lap on lap, especially with such a stacked grid. I'm expecting the grid to be relatively close. There's going to be a bit of field spread. There always is. Disaster can always hit. Even the greats make mistakes. But I'm a big fan of this particular circuit from a commentator standpoint. I've never actually driven it myself, certainly not in a sim form. So from a driver's standpoint, no idea. It really is a commentator's dream, though, in my opinion. This track is something for everybody.
Absolutely. This circuit is probably one of my favourites to commentate on, and certainly with this level of grid, it is going to be so close. I'm just going to recall back to the pre-season races that we held, the social races in Belgium, which is the longest circuit, of course. I believe the top 5 were all separated by a 10th, so on a shorter track like this, I don't even want to think about what the gaps are going to be like. But speaking of this grid, let's just have a quick look at it here. The PC F2 grid going from the top row from the left. We've got the Ferrari drivers of VRT Norbert and TF10 Villacamper. Then the Alpine drivers of Louis Welch, Tom Martinez. The 2 McLarens of Dylan Warren and CRG Smasher. Then the Alpha Tauris going the next row down. You got Piotr Stahelek, Ruben Pedreño, Chanakinchi in the Aston Martin alongside Ulas Uzi Ildrim. Hopefully we get that name right throughout the season. Then in the Mercedes, we've got Antoine Desaluski and John Evans, HX4K. And next team up, potential title challengers. We've got Challenger Series driver and qualifying for the Pro Draft, Ruben Vallejo, and his teammate TF10 Baenya, who was also in the Challenger Series on F1 2020. Then in the Red Bull team, we've got Shazoo Neon and Andreas Dormeyer, two Shazoo drivers in Alfa Romeo, Shazoo Risky and Shazoo Yari, and then the last team of Shazoo Get Owned and Jeffrey Ritchie in the Haas team. What a grid this is.
Oh my goodness me, that is incredible. This, like I said, I don't really think we're going to have a huge amount of field spread because all of these drivers are phenomenal. And even the reserves we've got for F2, one of them is Floris Valles, who, he's been in the Pro Draft. He's been, he's raced at the very top of F1 esports. That again goes to show just how good this grid is, let alone what we can look forward to for the F1 grid tomorrow. But this pack is going to give us some incredible racing, I have no doubt at all.
Oh yeah, 100%. We are going to get ready to go in very soon. But we are just waiting on, I think, one more driver. We do have a couple of reserves filling in today. I'll just quickly read them out. I see Christian Sendel. I believe he's replacing Smasher tonight in the McLaren. And looking down the list, we've got Christian Hausmann, who is replacing Villacampa, TF10 Villacampa. And I think there is one more. If I'm not mistaken. We do have Floris Veers racing tonight, and of course, previously mentioned racing in esports at one point. He is taking up the Williams seat of, I believe, Ruben Vallejo. And then we've got Samuel Bean as well, replacing Shazoo Yari. And I want to talk about Samuel Bean, the Alfa Romeo driver for tonight. I saw a couple of his laps earlier on in the day. I'm really frightened for this grid having a reserve like this to spoil their parties. He was on a mid 24.0, which how these drivers get these times, it boggles my mind. But it just goes to show the level of this grid that we definitely need to watch out for this driver.
I can't achieve in the dry what these guys can do in the wet. It's bonkers what these guys can do. It's truly terrifying pace. But that is what esports can offer. That is where the Formula One teams have really stepped up and given a real platform, a real target for the truly talented, the gods amongst mortals to strive for. But equally, that's one of the things I love about sim racing as a whole. It gives a platform for anybody. It doesn't mean, age, gender, race, creed, doesn't matter. If you're quick in the sim, you've got an avenue to prove it and to actually make a name for yourself.
Absolutely, 100%. It's 8:03 BST at the moment. I believe we're just waiting on one more driver, Ika Baenya, who is apparently he's just chilling on the main menu. I'm not too sure about that one there. But I'd also just like to talk about one thing. The tier coordinator or the admin of this tier, Louis Welch, he's done a really great job of putting this grid together so quickly. I believe pretty much the day or the day after that the grid was announced, it was all the cards were decided, and they've been really professional with this. They even went out of the way to get the headshots as well. So I just like, from an admin point of view, really to thank them for being so professional with this so far and putting this all together. And that man Louis Welch, I think around a track like Bahrain, which I believe was the track he won his last F1 race all the way back in season 26. It was his only points of the season. He managed to take home all 16 points in that race, and it was at this circuit. So I'd say he's a dark horse today.
Absolutely, but that's also another thing that is always a curiosity. Is that we've got a lot of we've got experience of quite a few of these names, but there's still a few dark horses in there. There's a few slightly lesser known or maybe returning drivers, and we don't know that. That's one of the exciting things about the preseason, isn't it? We just don't know the real pecking order at this point. So it's just all ready and raring to go. Yeah,
I'm actually really excited to see what this grid has in store just by looking at it. I could see at the end of this season, all the way in November, I could see any one of these guys being champion. And I'm a bit worried that it's going to be like the real F2. It's sort of a spec series, but instead of the cars being the same, which they are the same to be fair, it's actually all the drivers going to be the same. So really, it could be a lottery as to where everyone gets each week. As I believe we've got. Oh, you finally joined the lobby, which is lovely to see. I was a bit worried there. I was a bit worried that you weren't going to get in the lobby. I think I should send you a friend request just for the future. But I think, yeah, we're getting the call to start. So we're finally going to get ready to go. We will be loading in very soon. And you might be able to hear the ticking going once it starts a little countdown. But I'll go to the intermission screen. Before we get into this race, we're going to have an 18-minute qualifying session around this Sakir International Circuit, I believe it's called, and well, of course, it was a scene of many controversies in real life. The first race of the season, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton having their little bit of early title contention. Maybe we could see some of that tonight as the drivers are being they're doing really well to ready up quickly. We are just about to load in the lobby. I want to see the live chat explode. We've got 140 viewers currently watching at the moment. I want to see your excitement for this grid. How pumped are you to see all these guys in action in qualifying for these 18 minutes? Come on, I want to see them, everyone. We're going to be loading up soon, and it's going to be a cracker. Just gotta keep on waiting. Everyone's locking in their tire compounds at the moment. Of course, they don't actually get to change the if I am right there, I'd like you to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's actually any changes for the tire compounds they can make.
In the 18-minute qualifying, I believe you are correct. I thought that was for the top 10, but that may I confess I don't actually know entirely. But 18 minutes of qualifying is what's going to be ahead of us now. And then a 50% race thereafter. And, well, predictably, it's dry. Oh, we have movement. Who is coming out? That's one of the Red Bulls. I think that's Neon that has come out first. He's broken cover. Couldn't quite see. It's difficult to tell from the stationary camera. Both Mercs have come out.
Yeah, it seems like the first driver out on circuit looks to be an AlphaTauri car, and that is Piotr Stachelek. I want to talk about this driver. We saw in the VSR ex-PSGL social race, Piotr Stachelek led it right to the end, fighting with one of his potential rivals in this season of Ruben Vallejo, and he lost at the final corner and on the final lap, and he gave the win to Ruben Vallejo. So I think he's going to want to avoid making mistakes like that this season. Hopefully we can see some great things from him. He's on the medium compound of tyres, and he'll be the first one to put us on a lap here.
Oh, that's rough, isn't it? You know, final turn, final lap. We've all seen it. You never want to see it, but it happens to the best of them. But yeah, it is indeed Piotr Stachelek that is out first. Quite a few people have broken cover now. Antoine, again, I apologise for these names. I will get used to them probably by the last race of the season. Antoine de Zalewski out there's Neon, as mentioned. Andreas Dormeyer, Floris Vyers is on track. Get Owned, I've seen before. Jeffrey Ritchie, Hawk, Christian Hausman. Now Stelek. I will get this right. Piotr Stachelek has come back in again, so he's just done a bit of a cycle lap, or he's opted not to run with those medium tyres. A bit of a mixture of soft and medium starters, curiously. Almost everybody out on track now. I'm a little curious to see such a range of tyres used, but it's not uncommon for people to give a bit of a sighter on the harder tyres. It really depends on how well those softs last. I'm not 100% certain on how well the softs last here at Bahrain. But I think the first one of the few on the time lap, Dylan Warren in the McLaren is now out on his first time lap. Was one of the Alpines just coming out, possibly Tom just coming out right for. Oh wow, Dylan Warren got a big old switch there coming through turn 3. That'll cost him a little bit. He's on the medium tyres as well, so this is probably just a sighter lap from the McLaren to see where the grip currently is.
Yeah, I'd imagine these drivers just want to put a little bit of rubber down on the circuit, and then they'll go for their fully fledged push laps. We do have a couple drivers just further up ahead on runs. Coming into the second sector split is Shazoo Neon, and he's done a 104.7. It is, of course, purple for the time being because he is the only one to have put a lap in so far, as the Alpine car just gets out of the way very nicely through the final two corners. The little kink on the left-hand side is actually considered to be turn number 15. To cross the line, it is Shazoo Neon, and the first time on the board is going to be a 25.8. No doubt that that will come down later in the session. I believe we've got a Mercedes of Antoine Desaluski. That is more like it, a 24.5 on a set of the soft compounder tyres. Then HX4K right in behind him. About 1/100th of a second adrift is Jeffrey Ritchie. Those seem to be some of the first laps coming out already, and they look like flyers.
Yeah, the Merc paired together, so it could be that Desaluski was trying to help Hawk along with a bit of slipstream there. If that was what he was trying to do, they've essentially got that the wrong way around, because Zaluski's actually the quicker of the two drivers. But yeah, 1:24.5, a pretty decent time. Look at the gap between Hawk and Jeffrey Ritchie. My goodness, what's that, 13 thousandths of a second? And that's just in the in the first sighter laps. So we haven't seen the push laps just yet at all. So Mercedes pair 1 and 2, might have seen that once or twice out in the field. Just as I say that, Andreas Dormeyer said, well, you know what? No, I'm going to stick the Red Bull in there. So Merc and Red Bull having a fight with one another. Again, I refer to the previous statement. We've seen that once or twice in the wild. But yeah, we haven't seen the best of these drivers yet. Expect the gaps to be very, very tight. If the sighter laps are close, like so, as Risky gets a 24.2 on the board. Good God, that is quick. Yeah, this can only get better and better as the session goes on.
Yeah, more drivers putting in laps on a set of the soft and medium compound of tyres. Louis Welch, the quickest of the mediums at the moment, on a 25.5. And to not be that far away from the likes of Norbert Jakob, Jeffrey Ritchie and HX4K, it's really good to see that he's got that pace early on in the session, especially on a game that is not best suited to the pad runners. As we've got Ulas Azildrim currently in the final sector in the Aston Martin car. The Ferrari pulling off to the side. I believe that's Christian Hausmann just pulling off to the right-hand side. As through the final two corners comes the Mercedes-powered Aston Martin. We can hear the engine revving there. Ulas Azildrim goes to the front row of the grid. And his teammate, Chanakinchi, looking really strong as well. Both of them in the first two rows of the grid, going to be starting right nose to tail, I'd say, between the pair of them. I think that'd be really useful to start close together on circuit if you're teammates.
Ideally, but so much can happen as well, we know, on the first lap. So we'll see if that pays off for them. And of course, this order is going to shuffle around quite a bit before we get to the checkered flag. It's good to see. I confess those Astons do look rather resplendent in the new game under the lights of Sakir. Yeah, biased, guilty. But whilst I may not be a fan of them in real life, they do look rather good.
It's hard to disagree with you there, to say that they are not one of the nicest cars on the grid. I'd have to say the Alpine car is probably my favourite livery, probably the basic choice. But we've got the iconic red at the moment of Christian Hausmann donning the Scala red Ferrari at this moment in time, coming through the final sector. One of the reserves coming into this evening, so we'll see where he can place that Ferrari car. No constructors points, will be going back the way of the reserves. So that is one very key thing to note. And oh dear, Christian Hausmann unfortunately invalidates just coming out of the final corner on the curbing. Really easy to do for him, and it's a shame that his lap has ended that way, as Ruben Pedreño, we just caught at the end of his lap. He goes into third position at the moment. We'll see if we can catch another driver further up on their lap. Christian Sendel is about to cross the line. He goes into fifth position. So these times coming down very quickly. The gap at the top for Risky is looking pretty slim at the moment.
Well, it is. There's only 1.5 tenths, but then if you look at the gap in between each driver, half a tenth, second to third, barely over a tenth, third to fourth, and then 13,000, then 400s, and then half a tenth, Bloomin', then what's that, 14,000s. It's so close already. The only substantial gap is 10th or 11th at the moment. There's about 8 tenths there between VRT Norberto and Lewis Welch. But like I say, at the moment, yeah, these times aren't really much to look into. Who's just set a time? Was that Dormeyer that's just set a time? No, he's in the pits. It was Gatto, I think, that's just put a time on the board. Yes, it is. In the Haas, he's slotted into 8th position, 4 tenths behind the leader. What's he put on there? 124.7, which is a pretty decent side to lap. 3 drivers in the 124.7s at the moment. HX4K, I believe, or on the placement stream, that was pronounced as Hawk, which is certainly easier to say than spelling his name out.
We could opt for his real name. He's not shy about that, so I don't think he'd mind us calling him John Evans. And we were just talking about the gaps. How about that for a gap? 1,000th of a second, a millisecond to put that sort of in English terms rather than mathematically. So the gaps are still as close as ever. And I think that's really a testament as to how close these drivers are. We do have a couple more runners on our lap. Flores Veers has just invalidated through turn number 8, so he's going to have to back up on that lap. He has got the Aston Martin car of Chanakinchi on his out lap, so these guys looking to do their second runs at the moment. They get 3 sets of softs, 1 set of the medium to use in qualifying, which I think is an ample amount of tyres that they get to disperse throughout a session. See if we can find anyone who's just begun on a lap. Here we are. We've got Louis Welch, who's doing his first lap on a set of the medium compound of tyres. Of course, he used on the soft compound of tyres. He used the mediums on his first lap, and now he's opted for the red wall soft tyres, the less durables, but they've got a lot more grip in them, and it will allow him to go a lot quicker on his lap. He's got his teammate of Tom 97. I do believe right in front of him. There's a lot of blue cars on the mini map, so it's pretty difficult to tell, but I do think that they are the same tone of sky blue, I believe that is. So it is.
You are correct.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and he gets out of the way very nicely. Of course, teammates not allowed to give each other slipstream, and it's great to see that Tom Martinez and Louis Welch are respecting that together. I'd imagine they're both in a Discord call, sort of coordinating this sort of stuff. But how about that for an improvement on his previous best? Louis Welch is up by 7 tenths of a second, almost 8 tenths of a second, as HX4K John Evans has just gone ahead of his teammate into 4th. He could be down in 5th. I was going to say that. Louis Welch unfortunately invalidates at the end of his lap, and he comes flying into the pit lane, and what a lap that could have been.
That was looking good, wasn't it? I mean, 7 tenths of a second would have put him into 9th, I think. Just a quick bit of maths. Yeah, around about 9th position. You have got a fairly hefty gap between 11th and 12th at the moment. Oh, there's been another shuffle around. Who's moved? Oh, Kristen Hausman has just jumped up into 8th position. You were talking about a 1 millisecond gap. I think that's actually changed now. But between 15 and 16, Boehner and Tom, there is less than that.
Oh my!
Through the same thousands of a second, they have got their times on the board. But still, Shazoo Risky up top. He's out there on. He's on another flying lap. Actually, another set of soft tyres on the car. People still trying to keep out of people's way, so the yellow flags are just people trying to be cautious. We haven't seen a time from Samuel Bean yet, although he is out there. So the entire field is bookended by Alfa Romeo at the moment. Shazoo Risky coming down towards turn 11 on that short straight. He's got, I can't see who that is directly ahead of him, but it's not really close enough to cause trouble. Sweeps through turn 12, up towards 13. Less than 6 minutes on the board now, so people need. Oh dear, that's gone wrong. That's miles off the track there, and that'll be that lap blown. If he was on a time lap, that one has come to an end. He'll be bringing that one into this. Again, that's just going to show how difficult it is to keep the right foot planted and keeping it consistent.
Yeah, I believe through the first sector, he was about 1.5 tenths of a second up on his previous best time. And it all went away in that second sector, and of course the final nail in the coffin was him running off the circuit and pretty much killing any time that he had. But I do believe that sort of the second runs have been put in at the moment. Aside from Samuel Bean, who we are watching him, he's on his first lap of the session. He's not been able to put in a time in yet, but a lot of drivers coming back into the pit lane on their cooldown laps, and they will be gearing up for their final runs, really the last push that they can have. But I think Christian Zendel still has something to say about it. He's gone into second position. So Risky's buffers going down ever so slightly. It's just snuck under a tenth of the Alfa Romeo car, but we are watching the other Alfa Romeo, the reserve, Samuel Bean, on his lap. Coming into the third sector now, it is a 103.353 through Sector 2 and Sector 1 combined. We'll see if he can make this time work. Coming through the braking zone at the final corner now. What can Samuel Bean do? The dark horse, the talisman, he is today, riding right on the curbs off the exit. But can he go pole? It indeed is, by 200ths of a second of Risky. What a lap there from Samuel Bean.
My goodness me, that was literally pixels away from being invalidated on that final turn, coming out of out 14 over the curves at 15. My goodness me, you could not have run that any harder. It's now an Alfa Romeo 1-2, Samuel Bean and Shizu Risky taking out the front row. Everybody except for Samuel and Christian Sindel are Sindel, wrong game. Sendel, beg your pardon. Are in the pits at the moment. We're now entering what I call the banzai phase. So everyone's going to be fitting their last set of boots, making any adjustments they think they need to, getting their head straight, knowing where they've lost time, knowing where they need to improve, and then absolutely nailing it. First 16 drivers, 6/10 apart. I said this was going to be close, and it's not. Okay, it's not a massively long lap, so therefore those gaps are going to be closer. But my goodness me, barely over half a second is well over half the grid.
Yeah, it's insane how competitive things have got on the F1 games. And even if you take Samuel Bean and Risky out of the equation, it gets even closer, because third place is about just over 1/10 off of the top two. So imagine putting those gaps together. You could even see in fourth and fifth, they're separated by 4,000ths of a second. Like, the gaps are astronomically low. Christian Hausman, who we're actually watching at the moment, only managed to pip Jeffrey Ritchie by about 2,000ths of a second. But the final times will be coming up on the board very soon as drivers are gearing up for their final outlaps here. We've got Christian Hausman. He'll be the first one to take us through.
He will indeed. He was the first man to break cover in this banzai phase. Pretty much everybody filtering out now. A few cars still have yet to come out. It's Risky leaving it very, very late, as if someone has an almighty great incident ahead of them that is going to upset their laps. We don't tend to see the likes of safety cars and major yellow flags here because the runoff errors are so big. But that doesn't mean that someone else's mistake ahead of you can't upset the apple cart. So, Christian Hausman, right, let's ride on board with him. If my voice will hold, let's go through a hot lap with the Ferrari driver, screaming down to turn one, heavy on the brakes, get the apex right. It's such an awkward corner because you can just sweep through two and then keep the gas on for three. No one directly ahead of him just yet, so wander over the white line, keep two wheels on the road for turn four. Get that one nicely done, keep the car balanced, use as much of the rumble strip as you dare. Now sweeping through the twisties, 5, 6 and 7, trying to keep the car as balanced as you can, coming downhill, heavy on the brakes towards turn 8. Nicely done, no lockups there for Christian Hausman. Back into the lights, and then heading towards turn 9, fairly flat out, non-existent turn. Then it's turn 10, trying to brake and turn at the same time. It's very, very challenging. Oh no, Christian Hausman's catching traffic. That was Christian Sandel in the McLaren that has gotten out of the way, all the way over to the right-hand side to open up the turn for turn 11. Samuel Bean has retired from the session. He can do no more. 124.219, his best. Through 12, non-existent turn. Now this is where we saw Flores Valles get it wrong at turn 13. Last DRSO towards 14. We've seen quite a few laps already invalidated tonight. At this very point, can the Ferrari overcome it? Again, using every available inch of track available to him. to the sprint to the line now, and that is 7th as a 1:24.437. The lap looked pretty good, and that's still 2/10 off the top spot as another driver in the 24.4s.
It looked almost perfect, but it was only good enough for 7th position as Christian Sendel doesn't gear up for a final lap. He retires in the pit lane. We've got Piotr Stahelek at the moment as the clock has struck 0, so no more laps can be started as Stahelek crossed the line. It's only good enough for 3rd at the moment. Chanakinchi has unfortunately invalidated on his time. Antoine Desaluski has managed to pip it in 6th position. He's got his teammate HX4K down in 8th. Ulas Azildrim rising up the hill. He's got an Alpha Tauri car just in front of him that's got out of the way very nicely. I believe that was Ruben Pedreño, who has not been able to improve on his lap as we've had someone else, I believe, cross the line. I think that was Norbert Jakob. Neon has gone into 12th position, but what can the Turkish driver of Ulas Azildrim, who managed to put it on pole his last time, and somehow he's kept that lap valid, and if he improves on that, that might be questionable as to whether he keeps that lap, but I guess there is no changing it at this point in time. We'll see if we can find...
I don't believe it. Shazoo Risky has matched Samuel Bean's time to the thousandth of a second. I don't believe it. To the thousandth of a second. Samuel Bean does maintain the top spot. My goodness me. 3 drivers in the same 10th of a second to the leader. That is absolutely incredible. Half a 10th back is 3rd place Stalek. Then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers in the 24.3s.
Oh my goodness me, I don't think you'll ever see anything like that. Maybe ever again in this grid. The top 2 drivers setting the exact same time. Of course, Samuel Bean keeps that pole lap because, of course, he set it first. And I think Risky's still got to be happy about that one. And I think Frederick Vasseur would also be celebrating on the pit wall at the moment. But excluding Flores Veers, the entire grid, all the way down to 19th position, which is currently heralded by Dylan Warren, 7/10 of a second. The top 10 also, just about 2/10. Astronomically low gaps, as there we go. We will get a full comprehensive list of the qualifying order. I'm losing the way I'm thinking at the moment just because of how crazy that is to think about. Here is your list of qualifiers today. Samuel Bean and Risky locking out the front row for Alfa Romeo, setting the exact same time, a 1:24.219. How about that? The rest of the grid is as follows. Piotr Stahelek in 3rd, 4th for Christian Sendal, Ulas Azildrim in 5th, and then Aston Martin actually lock out the 3rd row as Chanakinchi has gone into 6th position. Antoine Desaluski and HX4K have locked out the 4th row for Mercedes. Then Christian Hausmann and Ruben Pedreño make up the top 10, and you can see the rest of your grid on your screen. But how about that for a qualifying session? And the race is yet to come. I do not believe how has that unfolded like that. We are going to get ready to go into the race very soon. Just put it into this intermission screen here whilst we load into the session, whilst the drivers get their strategies sorted. But what can we expect for this race now?
Damned if I'm going to put a prediction out there. No chance. And also, the top 19, as I say, with the exception of Flores Valles, who didn't get a competitive lap in there, with 7/10. You got one position up. The top 18, less than 5/10, less than half a second. That is unreal. Now, in my 5+ years, 5.5 years or so of doing sim racing commentary, I've seen the pole time matched half a dozen times at best. I've seen people match times in amongst the field, but not the pole time. That's so rare. Both cars, both Alfa Romeos, exactly the same time. Conspiracy theory? We'll let you think about that one. But look, what a great field we've got, though. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. With the performance you've seen, it would be difficult to discount the Alfa Romeos, but that's the thing. Anyone can be a one-lap specialist. It's slightly unfair. Yeah, people can be one-lap specialists. They can be, absolute monsters in qualifying. Obviously, it's in the race where it counts. Sounds like a bit of an obvious statement, but not everybody deals with the race as well as they do qualifying. And looking at the tyre choices, we've got a bit of a curious mix. So top 10, of course, are starting on the tyres they qualified on. That's fairly standard. Everyone downwards has gone for the mediums, except for Tom 97 and TF10 Boehner. They've gone for the hards. That's a very odd one. Yeah, hards are very, very rarely seen. France tends to see the hard tyres. Is one track that you tend to see it on. But now, it could be that those two drivers aren't particularly confident with the soft tyres. It could be that our top 10 will have to pit really, really quickly if Bahrain proves to be a bit of a tyre eater. Those soft tyres just may not last. We will see. But most of the rest of the field on medium tyres, that's not a surprise. Oh, guys, it's difficult to tell. I genuinely don't know where to put my money on. I'm going to pick a name as I'm a McLaren fan. I'm going to go Christian Sindel for only because he's wearing orange.
Well, he's certainly in a strong position starting on the second row of the grid. Tom 97 and TF10 Boehner, they're going to have the longevity, but in the beginning of the race, they are really going to struggle. Samuel Bean and Risky, they are going to be pulling into their grid slots as Christian Hausmann and Ruben Pedreño have both made contact somewhere on the road, and that means they're both reset to the grid. It's not going to be too detrimental considering the formation lap was almost at a close anyways, but still going to be a little bit less tyre grip because the temps will be lower. So they could be struggling with that one, but we'll watch Flores Viers pull into the box. I think you could pick a name out of a hat and it'd probably be right to win this race, as there we go, they line up in their grid slot and everything goes quiet. But the revs will soon go up as the lights will begin to come on. 1 light, 2 light, 3, 4 and 5 red lights. For the first time in season 29, we are green here in PSGL, and it seems like it's been a good getaway for Samuel Bean, covering off Risky to the inside line in towards turn number 1. You can see a lot of cars getting squirmish back in the midfield. I believe that was Neon trying to go up the inside as Piotr Stahelek has gone up the inside, and they're going to be wheel to wheel, the Alfa Romeo. Whoa! And AlphaTauri is a car further off in the back. I believe that's Louis Welch, and Ulas Azildrim is now coming into the braking zone at turn number 4. Piotr Stahelek manages to shove off Risky, it seems, who's gone it all wrong off the exit. He's going to fall down into 4th, maybe 5th position, because through turn 7 and 8 now, it looks like Risky's just about going to come out ahead of Chanakinchi there. But from the start, it is Samuel Bean, Piotr Stahelek, and your pick, Christian Sendel.
My goodness me, yeah, it was Louis Walsh and Ulas Azildrim that came off worse at turn 2 and 3. They were facing the wrong way briefly. But yeah, not a great start for Risky's. Well, started pretty well, but at the end of Sector 1 was where it undid itself for Suzuki Risky. But Samuel Bean now maintains a 7/10 gap over Piotr Stahelek. What a great start then for excuse me, for the AlphaTauri. Yeah, Christian Sindel keeping him company. Of course, everybody within DRS range, no one having DRS, of course, at this stage. Trying to look for broken front wings, not seeing anything obvious at this point. I'll keep an eye out to see if anybody peels into the pit lane. But yeah, Samuel Bean's got a great opportunity now to run off into the distance.
Absolutely, as we've got a little bit of a battle going on for the minor places in the top 10. Ruben Pedreño looked for a move on John Evans, but he seemed to back out at the very last moment. John Evans going very deep on the brakes onto the back of Christian Hausmann. Luckily, he managed to avoid the back of that Ferrari car, as Ruben Pedreño could be looking for another opportunity to bite at the Mercedes. It doesn't seem like he'll have the opportunity. There was a Ferrari car of Norbert Jakob, VRT Norberto, going off the circuit. He's managed to rejoin, but seemingly having some problems early on, as we've got a timing glitch going on at the moment. But do not be fooled by it, because the leader is Samuel Bean. And there we go. It's actually just completely corrected itself there, as lap number 2, not lap 3, we are on at the moment. We've got one more to go until DRS gets enabled. And, well, it'll be really interesting to see who can make the most of that one there. And someone who might not be able to make the most of it, Piotr Stahelek, because he's losing quite a bit of time to Samuel Bean. Already on lap number 2, he's 0.8 of a second back from the Alfa Romeo reserve driver.
He's used half of his energy reserve as well, so he's trying to chase hard to try and get some slipstream off the back of the Alfa Romeo. He's too far back, and the slipstream's only realistically effective from about 7/10 and less. I mean, you get a tiny bit, but nothing really substantial enough to make a difference. And Samuel Bean is doing exactly what he needs to do. He wants to break the all-important DRS range to the car behind. Yet, of course, another fastest lap, the first one in anger. And Stowlek doing what he can to try just about to maintain that less than the second gap. Of course, he's got Christian Sendel right behind him. Now, I would imagine the McLaren is probably just going to keep it steady. He's got no immediate pressure behind this. Risky is, again, another 8/10 or so back. So he's not going to be putting any pressure on the McLaren just yet. But Stowlek has got all the pressure on his shoulders. He needs to try and shut that gap down between himself and Samuel Bean. But at the moment, it does look like the Alpha is going to dance off into the sunset.
Yeah, it seems like he's just the one in adulation at the moment. Stowlek on the back foot, especially at the mercy of Christian Sendel. But of course, it is a long race we have yet, and there will be a lot of opportunities for these drivers to make moves work. And I just saw Risky going off in the background. He managed to keep it relatively clean. I think it was just a slide through turn number 10, but luckily for him, didn't hit that wall, which is probably the closest wall on the circuit to the track. But he's managed to keep it clean as battles further back down the order to Ray John. John Evans is feeling the pressure from Ruben Pedreño, but the DRS train is beginning to form already, so we'll see if these drivers can really make an attack. It's so difficult when you're in a DRS train to launch an assault on the driver in front of you. But we'll have to see what the young Spaniard does. He's using up some of his overtake, some of the battery to close up to the back of the Mercedes car, and it seems like he's got a good run coming in towards turn number 1, closing up the gap to about 0.2 of a second. Can he go up the inside line? He's going to hang back. He can't go for the move this time by, but beginning lap number 4, it's looking all clean so far. The pack has managed to keep in tow with each other, and no drivers have made a pit stop yet, which is great to see.
Absolutely, and pretty much everybody has actually maintained DRS range to the car in front of them. So that's going to put Samuel Bean under a bit more pressure. But again, I'm keeping an eye on the battery usage for our drivers. Now, Samuel Bean's around about 57%, doesn't need to worry about it too much. But Stowlek was down to 19% at the beginning of the lap, so he's built that up a little bit. But Sendel has stayed right on his diffuser. The McLaren has not gone anywhere. Risky is... he's right on the verge of losing DRS to the McLaren. Yeah, we saw Risky have that moment down at turn 10 last time around. He had an almighty great tank slapper and just obviously had to correct it and kept his foot absolutely buried, which kept the momentum up, and he did cost him those vital few hundredths, maybe a tenth or so. And he's right on the cusp of losing that DRS range. At this point in the race, it is going to be disastrous as Kama Akinci is ready and waiting in the Aston to relieve him of that position. But Pietro Stowlek doing a pretty decent job of keeping Sendel behind. But Samuel Bean, again, you can't really fault him. He hasn't really put a foot wrong. Is Sendel going to try and make a move into turn 1? He's positioned. No, doesn't quite do the Danny Rick send. He doesn't go for it this time around, but that has bunched the top 3 up rather well. Here comes the McLaren again, out of turn 3, positions himself for 4. Is he going to try and box him? Stowlek, he does, but that's side by side now. We've seen this go wrong in the past. And no, Pietro Stowlek manages to hold on to it in the AlphaTauri. Very nicely done. And Samuel Bean says, well, yeah, you carry on. I'm going to try and run off here. But Christian Sendel is not willing just to stay behind the Honda-powered POTUS driver right ahead of him.
Yeah, it was a great battle we've just seen there. Great respect from both drivers, as well as I think Risky's tumbling down the order. I wonder if he's got a bit of wing damage. It seems like he's actually in AI mode, so I wonder if he is having issues with his internet connection. But in all this battling, they've somehow managed to pull away from the rest of the pack and actually keep with Samuel Bean as well. So we could see a monumental battle for the lead on this next run in towards turn number 1. They've got to navigate the final sector first, this long straightaway, which can be agonizing for some drivers if they're running a bit more wing into the braking zone. They go 4/10 is the gap between Piotr Stachelek and Samuel Bean. Can he make that gap work as Christian Sendel comes into the bits early for an undercut on the front 2 drivers? If he can make his fresh set of tyres work, then he will be in prime position to launch an attack later on in the Grand Prix and get ahead of them once they pull into the pit lane. But Stachelek still following on the back of Samuel Bean Seems like he's losing a little bit of time, but there is battles for third position now as Antoine Tezaluski looking onto the back of the Turkish driver Çanakkale. Christian Hausmann is in this battle as well. HX4K and Ruben Pedreño not too far adrift at the moment, possibly down in towards turn number 11. We could see this battle climax as there goes Tezaluski into the barriers, and he's lost a bit of his front wing. He could have lost a bit of side pod as well, but he's going to have to box with that damage there. He goes for another spin. And really, that could be all over for Antoine Tezaluski in this race. Heartbreak for the Frenchman.
Such a shame. I was actually on the helicam on that one, so I didn't really see if there was impact between himself and anybody else. But, I mean, he was lucky that he didn't lose more than just a bit of front wing. But he's going to have to rethink his strategy a little bit for how he proceeds in the race now. So Christian Sendel has gone on to the hard tyres. We'll see how that is that Pedreño?
He's gone for a spin, and Neon's off the circuit as well, but Pedreño lost that car by himself. I think it's a bit unfortunate that we were watching him for that, but I think that is just a testament as to how quick these soft tyres really do go off. Seems like it's a Tesco car park at the moment, down in the latter positions of the points as Hausmann manages to find a way through on Çanakkale, as we've got no deltas at the moment. That is because Risky's managed to get back into the session as the first time penalty comes on the board. It is for Shazoo, gets owned in the Haas car. He's chasing down Andreas Dormeyer for 6th position. He's got to handle that at the end of the session, which could be detrimental for his race, as we've seen another car going off. I think that might be Risky.
Yeah, he had. I thought I'd seen him reconnect, but I think he's gone again, unfortunately. So, what a shame, from starting on the front row to being disconnected. Flores Valles is reminding us he's still in the race with the penalty, and Boehner as well. My goodness me. So, again, 3 very talented drivers, and they're getting penalties early on. It shows you how difficult it is to just keep that pace at that level for lap on lap on lap on lap. Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around Christian Sendel's decision, but then he pitted so early, he probably couldn't make mediums last that long. And like you were saying, because the soft tyres do seem to be absolutely mullered by this point, I wouldn't be surprised if the top 5 all peel in, as well as obviously you've got a couple of... It's just seen Samuel Bean lose the tail there. In he comes. So that's going to give Starolek the lead. And, in fact, Bean's the only one of the top 5 to come in. I'm a little surprised by that. We'll see how well he's got. That's hard tyres going on. So I wonder whether people are going to try and extend their soft tyre stint to go onto the mediums instead.
Yeah, I wonder if that is the case. It'll be really difficult to get them to the end, but Christian Sendel's going to come out just behind Samuel Bean. Will have the momentum into the braking zone. Can he cruise around the outside or potentially get a switchback on the Alfa Romeo driver? He's got the heat and the temperature in the tyres, but he's not close enough to even try for an opportunity as Lewis Welch gets a time penalty fighting with Flores Valles. They're still making contact between the pair of them. Lewis Welch has gone for a spin there. It just looked like there was no room at the end on the inside line of turn number 7, I believe that was. Louis Welch has had an off there, and Flores Valles, I don't quite know what happened. I just saw them have some contact, but the smoke and gun theory really does speak volumes sometimes, and well, more drama unfolds as Norbert Jakob goes for a spin. What is causing all of these incidents down on circuit?
Bit of impatience, probably. Maybe we've got people still adjusting to the physics of the new game. Obviously, with every iteration of the F1 game, it is those little bit different. You've got to relearn all the muscle memory, all the little things you do subconsciously are all that little bit different. And in the heat of the battle, we've said how close this grid already is. It's those little differences as well. Norberto is just wriggling around, trying to get going again as the 3 of the top, what was 4, have come in now. So that's Starolek, Christian Hausmann and Çanakkale have come in. So Hawk has continued. I think he's going to go for mediums. I reckon he's eyeing up a medium stint, not a hard stint. That is how much time he's going to lose on those really, really worn softs. That's going to be the biggest selling point. Risky's car still going. It's under AI control. It's still out there on a very, very worn set of softs by now. Also worth mentioning, Ulas Ozildirim. He's on softs, and that race has gone horrifically badly for him. He's surrounded by cars that have either started on mediums or have already been in the pits. So this race has not gone well for the Aston Martin driver.
As we've seen our first retirement of the day into the pit lane, Antoine Dezelewski, and that is understandable from him getting that wing damage and having to pit. Seemed like there was no hope for him. It's good that he has decided to box in the pit lane first before retiring the car so as to not bring out a safety car and potentially give an advantage to his teammate who is leading at the moment as Pedreño gets past the AI car of Risky. That is to be expected. We're following the battle for the net lead at the moment, currently heralded by Samuel Bean. And I think one bit of use for him is he actually got Louis Welch right in front of him. So that's going to allow him to pick up the DRS from the Alpine car potentially and to pull away from Christian Sendel, who's managed to jump Piotr Stahalek at the moment, who is in P3. A net P3 as Dormeyer manages to get past John Evans for the lead of the Grand Prix. And this is where the medium tyres are really going to start to phase in this session as Ulas Azildrim does finally box on that set of the softs, leaving just HX4K tumbling down the order at this point, the lone Red Bull soft runner.
Yeah, I reckon he's gambling on a set of mediums, which would be fine if there's no kind of safety car or anything like that. We'll see how well that pays off for him. I'm not convinced personally, but I've been proven wrong many times when it comes to tyre strategy, so I tend not to try and call it. He's using up a lot of his battery as well. Dylan Warren looks set to try and make a move on Hawk. Is he going to try and do... Oh, he's going to go for it into 11. Oh, that's a brave man to try and move there. But he could see that Hawk was struggling. So he was confident enough that he can make the move stick without compromising his own line. Great battle right ahead of them as well. So for the current lead of the race, that's Dormeyer and Ghetto. Now Ghetto, of course, we saw him get that penalty in the ass a little while ago. Oh, as Jeffrey Ritchie and Hawk are side by side coming down towards the penultimate turn. Yeah, so Hawk is tumbling through the field. Surely he's going to come in now. Yep, in he comes. I'm going to keep an eye on him. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for mediums.
Yeah, I don't see any other reason why he wouldn't go for the set of the medium tyres as Dormeyer and Ghetto in swap positions. That is understandable considering that Dormeyer doesn't have DRS on anyone in front of him. So he's they're just going to be trading out the lead for the next couple of laps. And indeed, HX4K or Hawk, I think we'll go with Hawk. We'll see what he wants in the next race. But he does box for a set of the mediums. So I wonder how long these drivers are going to go on for the rest of the race. If I do recall correctly, I think mediums to soft does work around here, and you can do more laps on a softer compound later on in the Grand Prix because, of course, you're putting less load into the tyres with lighter fuel loads. So I think it definitely can work for all these drivers. If they keep up good pace with the hard runners at the moment, then they will be in prime position to potentially snatch a win right under the noses of the drivers who might have thought that it was all set in stone for them in this race, as not too much going on at the moment on circuit. Drivers just settling to a rhythm on track, fighting their own small battles, but no major impacts being made at the moment. Flores Veers, I believe, takes his second time penalty of the day in sixth position. He's on the medium tyres, quite a long way back from the likes of Ghetto, Dormeyer and Warren, but of course he started right at the tail end of the field, so he's got a lot of work to do to get further up the order, and he's got Tom 97 right on his rear.
Yeah, that's 6 seconds then for Flores Valles. Ghetto has got a lot of company up there. So speaking of Flores Valles, he's just been passed by Tom 97, fairly straightforward DRS overtake down into turn one. Not taking that away from Tom 97 at all. He's running a pretty good race. Bearing in mind, he's on the hards, so he's actually running a pretty good race in hindsight. The next hard runner is, 5 or so seconds down the road. That's TF10 Boehner. So, fair play to Tom 97. He's making that work pretty well on those harder tyres, and he'll assuming he come out on a set of softs towards the tail end of the race. We'll see what he does. Where is our inherent leader? There he is, Sam Bean. So he's got past TF10 Boehner. So that puts him and Louis Welch in between himself and Sendel and Starlex. So Samuel Bean's in a brilliant position now to try and extend that gap with backmarker help. Effectively backmarker help. He has got the war of who's he got ahead of him? Actually, he's looking down the road. That's Boehner and Norberto he's got ahead of him. so he's going to have to deal with those. Hopefully not lose too much time until they do their pit stop. That top 5, I wonder if they're just kind of settling into their rhythms now. They may not be trying to challenge each other, just kind of keep on going, working their way through the laps. Oh, just I say that, Jeffrey Ritchie has come in. I thought the mediums would go... Well, no, I mean, we're seeing people pitting after 6 laps on the softs, so that's probably a little bit early for the mediums. What's he going to go? Is he going to go hards? He's not going to make softs last that long. But quite a few people actually in the pits. Yep, that's hards for Ritchie. Norberto and Boehner are assuming they're going to do the same thing. Actually, Boehner started on the hards. Why is he coming?
Got a little battle going on for the net P2 at the moment. It's contact between Stahalek and Sendel. Both these guys going hammer and tong in towards turn number 4. To the outside line goes the Polish driver of Piotr Stahalek. Can he make this one stick? We've seen this in real F1 between Verstappen and Hamilton, but now through the twisty path to turn 6, 7, and indeed almost up towards 8 inside line for the AlphaTauri. Guys, made that move stick on Christian Sendel. Great respect between the pair of them at this point in the race, and they swap positions once again. They've been battling it out pretty much the entire Grand Prix, I would imagine, but all that fighting has allowed for Louis Welch and indeed Samuel Bean to pull away. And I don't know, I think Stahalek, he does have DRS on Louis Welch in front of him, so he's going to be able to pull back, reel him back in. But what a battle we've just seen there for the net P2 in this race.
What a move on Piotr Stahalek. That was absolutely brilliant. He didn't bow out of that. He was determined to make it work. And, you know, a lesser mortal would have backed out of that at turn 4, but he decided to nail the throttle. But it goes well driven by Christian Sendel. If he'd had a moment's understeer, they both would have been off. So brilliantly driven by both of them. But it is the AlphaTauri of Piotr Stahalek that's come out on top, and he's already given himself 7/10 of a second between himself and the McLaren. He's chasing off after Louis Welch, who of course hasn't pitted yet and may well not do for a little while. We'll see how that transpires. Now, TF10 Bene came out on the medium tyres. They should easily last to the end of the race. Again, so we've got a few people that are trying a bit of a contra strategy, trying to keep an eye on them as well as everything else. What an action-packed race we've got.
Absolutely here, and it seems like the difference that Christian Sendel's undercut made might all have been in vain, because well, 3 laps is the difference between Stahalek and Sendel's tyres, and I think that might have been the breaking point, the last straw that broke the camel's back, because he just seemed to be slipping away from the Polish driver, who does have immense pace. I don't think it could all be contributed to the tyres. It might just be the raw talent of Piotr Stahalek, who is just closing up at the moment to Louis Welch. He's done really well to bridge this gap. It was about 0.8 of a second last time by at this point. Now it's 0.4, and that is also contributing to Louis Welch's dwindling tyre life on the mediums, and perhaps a spin earlier on in the race on lap number 1 could have affected him throughout this entire Grand Prix. We'll see if he decides to box the top 5 all staying out. The top 4 all staying out on the set of the tyres that they're on. They're going to be trying pushing. I think if they're doing more laps on the set of the hard, on the medium, than they would the set of the hard, they're surely going to opt for the soft strategy, as Getone picks up a 3-second time penalty, which I don't think is going to help him in his fight with all of the leaders at the moment, especially since he's got the ideal strategy.
Yep, that's 6 seconds of penalties now for Getone. So, I mean, fair play to him. First race of the F2 season. And, the F2 tier, I should say, of season 29. And he's leading. Now, you can make the argument that it's down to strategy, but no matter how you look at it, he's still the one on track in front of everybody else. And it's not like Andreas Dormeyer right behind him is putting the moves on him at the moment. It's about 6.5 tenths, give or take, in between first and second. I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 of these cars came in at the same time, but then again, I said that about the leaders, and they completely broke that particular prediction when I made it. So we'll see what they do as Getone leads the top 4 around turn 13 down towards the last couple of turns. Of course, this is where we've seen several qualifying laps go wrong. He's not pushing all the way across. No one is coming into the pits just yet. They've all continued along their merry way. Where is Samuel Bean? He's in 7th now. So he's cleared. Well, it's actually Lou Welch is staying with him. He cleared him a little while ago, but he hasn't broken away, curiously, from the Alpine. and Starolek and Sendel. Well, actually, it's Louis Welch. I mean, that is a fight for position, you could argue, but of course, Welch isn't realistically in that fight. But he's doing a pretty decent job of keeping that pace. As we've lost Tom 97, he's disconnected.
Yeah, I just seen that at the bottom of my screen there. Tom 97, we've lost him from this session. Hopefully, he's got a spare invite to get back in the lobby here. But that could be race over. I think Samuel Bean's going to be catching him at a rate of knots now. His AI car is not going to be helping him whatsoever in this race. I think it could be game over for Tom 97. It's looking like a really strong Grand Prix for him as well, running a really solid race on a set of the hard combat tyres. He wasn't too far off the back of the leaders who were running mediums throughout the entire race, and they've still got a little bit of life left in that yellow wall tyre. But it was all for nothing at this point. Samuel Bean will be catching him and will overtake him soon, you would imagine, as we'll check back in with the top 4 at the moment, as Flores Fears isn't too far adrift. I think we've got one driver in the pit lane, and indeed Shazoo Neon is going to be the first to blink, and I'd imagine this will be for a set of the soft compound of tyres as he pulls into his box. It is indeed Azulas Azildrim picks up a 3-second time penalty. We'll see where Neon files out in this pack. We'll see where he is in comparison to Jeffrey Ritchie, who was on the same strategy as him, decided to make a left instead of a right and go for the hard compound tyres, and well, he is quite a bit away behind him, but I don't think it'll be long before the Red Bull driver picks up his speed and catches up to the back of Jeffrey Ritchie, as it has been 17 laps here. They're on lap 17, as I think everything is going to get a little bit more exciting once all these medium runners come in for their pit stops.
Yep, still some pit strategies to play out as yet. Azildrim is on the back of Pedreno for 15th position. The Aston Martin and the AlphaTauri having a great old scrap for that piece of tarmac, so it doesn't matter. They may not be in the top 10, but that's not stopping their racing any. But still big clumps of cars together. We're not seeing a mass spread of the pack, which I'm very glad to see. So that prediction has come true. Tom 97 has reappeared, so of course he has lost some time. He's down to 9th position now, not quite back in his car yet, but of course we'll know that when the deltas disappear. And the top 3 have come in at once. Is Flores Fires going to do the same? Yes. So the top 4 medium starters have. Oh no! You don't like to see it, but it's Flores Fires speeding in the pit lane. There's no coming back from that. That can't be undone after the race. Oh, and that was by unless it's proven to be a bug. I was on board with him when it happened, so he may well argue that one. So we'll see what comes up, but that gives the lead back to the same 3 that had it before, and they're very close together, as that's Tom 97 now reappearing, now with pit stops in 6th position with Hawk right on his tail. So we'll see how much longer those hard tyres are going to go on for, because he does have to pit. That rule is still in place. You must make at least 1 pit stop during the race and change your set of tyres for a compound you haven't used. But the top 3 are well... there's not many laps between them. Those hard tyres aren't going to degrade an awful lot. So, nearest damn it, of course, Sendel has the oldest tyres by a few laps. Slight disadvantage, but it's not going to be too catastrophic, as Hawk has just made his way past the recovering Tom 97. That's for 6th position. Keep half an eye on him as well, because bear in mind, he's on the soft S tyres of the top 6. So, he could well have quite a bit of life in those medium tyres. Could really help him close in the gaps. Difficult to tell at the moment, but let's see how we play out for the remaining 12 laps.
As I think Flores Fear's penalty there is just one of the most agonising feelings when you have that happen to you, as I believe Tom 97 just pulling off to the right-hand side. He does well to get into the pit lane without speeding there, as Andreas Dormeyer fighting his teammate here, Shazoo Neon, who managed to undercut him by pitting 1 lap earlier, but he slides up the inside line as we've got a yellow flag in Sector 1. I wonder who's had an off there. I'm not too sure who it could possibly be. We don't see any cars going slowly anywhere. I'm not too sure what's happened with that. There might just be a glitch on F1's side, but there is Dylan Warren sneaking up the inside of Shizou Neon. Neon backs out, noticing he can't hold it around the outside. That was Dylan Warren's corner from the moment he pulled along the inside of him. Good move from the McLaren driver, and he nips his way up into the points.
Look at that. You've got 4th to 11th all in one big clump, and they are scrapping for every bit of track they can find. You've got various different tyre compounds, obviously different makes of car. Not that that makes a difference in sim racing terms, but that is a wonderful scrap going on. Hard, medium and soft tyres all represented in that fight for what is 4th place. Oh my goodness, I would not want to be Akinci right now.
I don't think I want to be anyone but Shizou gets owned. Andreas Dormeyer, Dylan Warren and Shizou Neon, all these guys running these soft tyres, and I think the first victim of the alternate strategy is going to be Jeffrey Ritchie, who was running the same compound. He could be with this group, and it just seems like he's made the mistake. Maybe he put too much wear into his tyres, and it completely unraveled his race for him, but he'll be overtaken by Shizou Geton, and surely VSR Andy Andreas Dormeyer closing up to the back of him. But further up the order, HX4K is going to be losing out on this battle with the Haas car, who managed to nip and tuck his way up into 6th. Andreas Dormeyer sneaking up the inside as Ildrim has gone off the circuit. He's in the gravel where Nikita Mazepin lost his car, as that is unfortunate for him there, but the battles continue on lap 20.
Yeah, didn't see quite what happened to the Aston Martin there. He won't be best pleased about that. That's another off. Is that Boehner that's gone? Yeah, that's the Williams facing the wrong. Whoa, crikey! As he's tried to recover right in the path of the Aston Martin of Ildrim. My goodness, that looked close from the off-board camera. But yeah, still plenty of fighting going on. Get owned, as you mentioned, up into 6th position, right on the tail of Christian Hausmann, and also Akinci as well. What's he going to do here? Is he going to try and make a move down into 14? He needs to make the moves as quickly as he can to maximise those soft tyres. Yep, he's committed to it. No, he's opted not to go for it, as Andreas Dormeyer has gotten past Hawk as well. Just literally a few meters down the line. Here we go. Is Akinci going to try and defend? He's gone to the middle of the track. Hausmann's going to go one way. Is Getson going to try and make that one 3 wide? He's got one. Is he going to try and nail the Ferrari as well? Oh, close, but not quite. Into turn 1. Well driven by all of them, indeed. Akinci didn't panic. As the McLaren of Dylan Warren is fending off Andreas Dormeyer, as well as all kicking off. Ghetto now up into 4th position with those softer tyres. That looked fairly inevitable that time, but my goodness me, they are scrapping something chronic.
Unbelievable scenes here at PSGL. Get Owned is now up into 4th position with those time penalties to contend at the very end, so it might not be over for the likes of Andreas Dormeyer and Dylan Warren, who could still find a way into the top 5, as Dylan Warren closing down onto the back of Can Akinci down on the straightaway towards turn number 11. No opportunity for an overtake, but up the hill, grip is going to be absolutely vital in getting the power down as quickly as you can, which you are much more able to do on a set of the softs. You can see he's closing up to the back of the Aston Martin. Both Mercedes engines in the back of their chassis. Wiggles for both of them coming out of turn number 13 in towards 14. Dylan Warren pulling out the slipstream so as to not overheat his engine, I would imagine, and to not go for the move preemptively, as he'll try for it in towards turn number 1. And this might just be an absolute slaughter for him here, but it's not over, because Akinci has actually got the DRS and slipstream on Hausmann in front of him. These two going to go wheel to wheel and towards the braking zone of turn number 1. Dylan Warren finds a way through, as Andreas Dormeyer also trying to look for a way to filter into this battle. Akinci with a bad exit coming in towards turn number 4. This might be a little bit more difficult for Dormeyer, but he's going to go late on the brakes up the inside line in towards P7 there, as Akinci losing out a number of positions on this set of the hard compound of tyres. Dylan Warren still following off the back of Christian Hausmann, who's lost almost 2 seconds to get owned in the 1 lap that it has been since he was overtaken. The difference in the grip and pace that these tyres have is monumental. As a little bit of a lag back, I think, for Andreas Dormeyer. I'm not too sure what's going on with him there, because he's just blipped away on our screen. Christian Hausmann having to defend from Dylan Warren. He's not close enough this time by, but you'd imagine the McLaren's going to get by very soon.
Yeah, I was on board with Hawk when that happened, actually. Andreas had a huge lag moment there that's put him back into 11th, which is a shame. I mean, Jeffrey Ritchie has been absolutely battered by Neon and by Hawk. That's another penalty for Azildrim. At this rate, he's going to be on this track next week. But yeah, Hawk and Neon. Hawk didn't manage to get past Jeffrey Ritchie. Neon did. But both occasions, Jeffrey Ritchie got an absolute battering from both of them. As Sandell and Stylek are having an argument for second position. McLaren did manage to nose up into second place briefly, but Stylek has managed to regain that one. That's allowed Samuel Bean to dance off into the sunset. But Getone is absolutely flying. He's got those fresh softs on the car, and he's absolutely decimated the gap between himself and the warring pair right ahead of him. But of course, he's got that 6-second penalty to overcome, and not many laps left to do it, as they're catching up to the disconnected ghost of Shazoo Risky. A great, again, you got to feel sorry for him. Qualified on the front row, and technical difficulties has denied him a decent race. But Get Owned is going to pick up DRS off. Well, I say he's actually close enough to Christian Sandell anyway. He didn't need the ghosted car of Risky to do it. He's absolutely flying out there. As a penalty and fastest lap for Ulyss Azildrim. Well, he did. He fitted a new front wing, and new tyres last time around. So, fair enough. The reminders that he's still with it, but he's still pushing on, even though he's right down the back. An 18th place, not likely to pick up any points from there. He's still pressing on. He's not giving up. Fair play to him. But I'm keeping a very keen eye on Get Owned. Penalty aside, he's absolutely flying.
And coming down the straightaway, it's going to be difficult with the DRS for Sandell, who's going to defend to the inside line. Maybe trying to have a look at Piotr Stahalek up in front of him. Not going to be close enough. TF10 Boehner picks up a 3-second time penalty, but here comes Get Owned and indeed Christian Sandell in towards turn number 4, already off the exit. Get Owned looked like he wanted to go for a move, but he pulls back into the slipstream. He's not trying to rush this because he knows he's got a limited amount of time on this set of the soft compounder tyres. At about lap 5 in this Grand Prix, lap 6, that's when we really started to see a lot of the soft runners start to make mistakes. So his tyres, they're not going to be like this forever at this rate. Could he maybe try and opt for a move in towards turn number 10? It'd be very risky if he did, but he hangs back, possibly in towards turn number 11 or into turn number 1 again, as these guys all in tandem actually catching back up to Samuel Bean, who seems to be pulling back a little bit in his pace, probably trying to tyre save just to get to the end and also to not get a penalty, as Ulyss Azildrim retires in the pit lane. His day is done. Unfortunately, 2 retirements in this Grand Prix, Ulyss Azildrim and Antoine Desolewski. But we look back to the battle between Christian Sandell and Get Owned, because Get Owned is about 0.2 of a second back from the McLaren car here. We'll see if he can go for the move in towards turn number 1. He gets the better exit off the final corner, pulling to the inside line as they're all defending, squirming to get the prioritized track position. He can't make that. He does make that move, but he backs off.
He had to back off. It was yellow flags.
Oh, no.
There was yellow flags in sector 1. He had no choice. Oh, that was a shame. The AI car of Ulyss Azildrim rejoined the track. That was a great shame, because Azildrim retired his car in the pit lane, as he should do. Now Get Owned has managed to make the move down into turn 4. Oh, that is gutting for Get Owned. He had the move, and Starleg is really feeling the pressure. He committed to the defensive line so early off the back of the final turn. And they are within DRS range of Samuel Bean. I think Sam is actually recharging his battery, but also his fuel light's on, so he's pushed the fuel gauge a little bit far. He's had to do a bit of fuel saving. It's now just gone off again, and none of his competitors right behind him have also got the fuel warning. So it looks like Samuel Bean's pushed his fuel tank a little bit far. That's why that lead has disappeared. But Get Owned, he's not got long to go. He's only got, after this one, it's going to be 4 laps to try and undo that penalty. He's got to get past the 2 ahead of him, which is going to be no easy feat in the first place, even with those soft tyres. He's got a hell of a job ahead of him to try and undo those penalties. He'll be kicking himself for the fact that those penalties are there now, because what a position he's in. I can't remember where Gedone started, but I think it was outside of the top 10 in the Haas, and here he is in a podium, well, what would have been a podium position. And have we just had a lag moment from Dylan Warren, as he's flown off the road in the midst of his pack. I think Dylan Warren in the McLaren has had a big lag moment, because on my screen he suddenly plummeted in the blink of an eye down to 9th, as Gedone has now made that move up into 2nd position, that 4-car train now for the lead. Is he going to try and gun it for Samuel Bean? Surely not from that far back, even with the soft touch. Oh, God, he gets close. But, yeah, he's not going to try and make a move there, but he's going to make a move soon. I wonder if he's going to try it into turn 11, but he's probably going to bide his time. Well, the safer option is to bide his time and have a go into turn 1 on the next lap. And, of course, that gives him less time to undo that penalty. At the moment, he would drop to 5th, I think. So, and, of course, the harder he pushes, the more likely he is to actually get another penalty on the board. The one with the most penalties, I believe, is Floris Viers. Yes, he's got 14 seconds of penalties on the board, with 3 track limit penalties and the speeding in the pit lane one to deal with.
Yep, and if he does pit again, that 5 seconds will not have any opportunity to be removed. So I think his day is all but done. As Getone running off the circuit there. And I think he's been pushing a bit too hard, and this opens the door back for Piotr Stachelek, because he's now within a 10th of the Haas car in front of him, coming through turn number 14, and indeed at turn 15, a big slide out the final corner for Stachelek as well. Floris Viers gets another time penalty. Here comes Getone down the straightaway on the back of Samuel Bean for the move on track down the straightaway. Haas versus Alfa Romeo. That is the move made for Getone, and now in the space of just a few laps, 3 laps he's got to pull out a 6-second gap to keep this lead. It looks like the chances are astronomically low, but he's still got the fight. He's still got the will to try as hard as he can to possibly pick up a podium position if indeed these drivers do fight it out behind him. But I think regardless of the penalties, regardless of the positions, he's got something to be proud of today. He's taking the fight to these drivers who have been... Oh, Dylan Warren's off the road. Oh, no. And I think he might have wing damage. It looks like he's got away with that one there, but I think his day's done as well.
What a shame. You know, he's in the top 10. His AI is now, yeah, he's out. He's opted just to bin that one with only 3 laps to go. It was going to be difficult to salvage anything. It did look like he kept his car out of the wall, but that could cause a bit of havoc when the leaders come back round to them, as Boehner has come back into the pits. Oh, sorry, it's coming out of the pits. That's an AI control car as well. So there are a couple of cars under AI control. I'm going to keep an eye on Getone's progress. He's undone the penalty back to Neon, so he would remain in 4th if the race finished now. So what life has he got left in those tyres? 2 laps to go. Basically what he wants is for the 3 behind him to start picking up penalties. Well, that's Neon, who was already out of the 6-second race. So that pretty much secures 4th at bare minimum for Gedone. But Samuel Bean is not hanging around now. He's sticking himself very, very close to Gedone, which is actually quite sensible, because that, if he's able to stay in that slipstream as best he can, he's got a fair amount of energy in the battery as well. You know, Gedone is on very minimal amount of power in the battery. The ones behind him have kept some power left. So I just cannot see that Gedone's got any chance of hell. And again, his car is really, really quickly. He has burnt the best out of those tyres. They're probably absolutely boiling hot as well. So he's just not got that traction advantage anymore. But I did say that, you know, keep an eye out for the lesser known drivers. I mean, Gedone is a well-known driver in the community, yes. But in the field, in the field of talent we've got, Gedone wasn't necessarily a driver you would have pinned as winning the race. Granted, the penalties are going to put him down to 4th, but with a performance like this, you can't ignore the fact that he's got some talent out there.
Yeah, and it really does back my previous statement at the beginning of the Grand Prix. You could put a name in the hat, and then it would come up with anyone, because I certainly, no disrespect to Getone, he's put on an amazing performance today. I did not expect him to come into this race swinging like he did, and I think he's shut everyone up. He's shut up the doubters that didn't really think about him in this season. He's driven a brilliant race on this set of the tyres that well, with the cards that he was dealt, qualifying in 15th position. He's made up 14 places in this race, and he's got one more lap to complete before he wins on circuit. But that is, of course, if Samuel Bean, Stahalek and Sendel don't have anything to say about it, and they are still closing up to the back of the Haas car. But I think Samuel Bean will be quite happy to just sit in behind him and wait until the very end. They've got just 2 sectors left to navigate in this race. One DRS zone, which potentially could be an avenue for the likes of Stahalek and Sendel to take a position in the end on Samuel Bean. So we're not clear out of the water yet, but onto the DRS straight. Seems like as Dormeyer gets a penalty down in 12th position. I think he's actually run off the circuit, and yellow flags there. He's out of the race, as unfortunate for him. They look like he had some really great pace in this race, but looking back at the leaders, Getone has got just a couple more corners left to go in this race before he wins on circuit, using up the last of his battery. He's put on a brilliant performance. His red fuel light is blinking, and indeed the one on the back of his car is as well. But through the final corner, Shazoo Getone is going to accelerate for the final time to take the win on circuit. But in the end, with the penalty, Samuel Bean will take the first win of the season, of season 29 in F2, and that is going to lay a marker for the rest of the drivers. Piotr Stahalek in second, and rounding off the podium is Christian Sendel. What a race we have just witnessed there.
Absolutely incredible. 4 cars all crossing the line within pretty much a blink of an eye. That's not surprising from Flores Bias. My God, and how quick did that race end? Major gap, top to bottom. But oh yes, please, more of this. This is what we were looking forward to, and I'm not surprised that the game is given driver of the day to Getone, a very worthy contender for that. People in the chat, put your votes in, but yeah, you can't take that away from our eventual winner, because he got the strategy perfectly right. We didn't really see a foot wrong anywhere from the Spaniard, did we?
No, not one, I would say. I'm trying to think of a scenario where he was slower than anyone else, but it just doesn't come to me. But indeed, he celebrates atop the podium. Samuel Bean wins this race in style, and we will get a full comprehensive list of the classification here. It is Samuel Bean winning this race, Piotr Stahalek in second, third for Christian Sendel, then Getone in fourth, and Jeffrey Ritchie in fifth. I believe that Stahalek, Sendel, Getone and Ritchie are all in the Shazoo team, so I think they'll be going home absolutely laughing tonight with their driver's performance. Christian Hausmann in sixth position, seventh for Shazoo Neon, then VSR Chanakinchi in 8th, Hawk in 9th, 10th for Lou Welch at the end of it, even though he looked like he was a mile off the back of the rest. Then Ruben Pedreño in 11th, Tom 97 in 12th, Norbert Jakob, VRT Norberto in 13th, 14th for Flores Veers. Dylan Warren with his spin retiring from this race by leaving the session in 15th. TF10 Boehner, I think, doing the same. Andreas Dormeyer crashing the car himself in 17th. Then Risky leaving the session early on with the lag issues. What could have been for him? Azula Sazildrim and Antoine Desaluski are your final finishers. But what a race we have just witnessed there. I still am wrapping my head around what we have just seen.
I think we were expecting a damn good race from our F2 drivers, and wow, did they not disappoint? Wow, I'm only just kind of gathering my thoughts on that. Much like yourself, Dan. That was, yeah. If that's a precursor for the season, this is going to be magnificent.
Absolutely, I'm really hoping that we can get these drivers in for an interview here. I'm just going to put it in the Discord chat that we've got to see if any of these drivers want to have an interview, because we'd love to talk to them and get their thoughts on how this race went. It was such an honor, really, to be the commentator for this race. And it's only the first race of the season as well, which is something I cannot wait for at this point.
Yeah, I can't add to that. So my brain is mush now. That's absolutely brilliant. I've got, words are now failing me. I'm glad they're failing me now as opposed to during the race, but yeah, that's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, in fairness, we saw great performances throughout the field. Yeah, a few people struggled, a few penalties, but even the likes of, like I say, Flores Valles, not meaning to pick on the guy, but yeah, he's been at the very top of this game. And sadly, he ended up having the most penalties. Just goes to show that, even the greats can make mistakes, and we saw a few mistakes through the field. So that didn't stop anyone putting in a great performance. No one. Okay, we did see someone crash towards the end and then park the car. Fair enough. We had a few retirements, but those still running were still pushing for everything they could get, and that's brilliant to see.
Absolutely. I think that is something we really do have to commend these drivers for because, in the pre-season races, we saw a lot of retirements. I think in Belgium, it was like 9 drivers might have finished or something. So that really, that worried me for how this season was going to turn out. But luckily, we really did see everyone give it their all right until the death of it. And they tried their very best, but it was Samuel Bean coming out on top. And I think even before this race, I was thinking he was going to be a very strong contender. I saw on Twitter that he had his 24 flat in qualifying, and I knew that it was likely that we weren't going to see it in the real thing just because of the pressure that builds up for these drivers. But to get that close, I believe he was on a 24.2 or something. Still incredible pace from him, and I hope that as a reserve, he can get more time in this season. He is the first reserve, if I'm not mistaken, so he will be, if someone's not turning up, he'll be the first man that they call on to, and boy, am I praying to see more of that action. I'm not too sure if I don't think we're actually going to get anyone, sadly, in the commentary box. For the interviews, I don't think anyone's joined, but we can do a little bit of a segue into the end of the stream. So make sure you check the description of this video to join the Discord server, where you can get more information on PSGL and possible signups that will open very soon. I'm not too sure the exact date, and make sure you follow us on Twitter, Premier Sim GL. That is the socials that we have, and I'm not too sure what else to really say here. If Kodiak, if you have any other, if you have any comments, please let us know.
Well, not that you haven't already really mentioned, we thank you those that have been with us throughout the stream and catching up with this post-event. It is always a great pleasure to have you on board. As we mentioned at the top of the show, this was the F2 lobby. We've got the big guns tomorrow at 7 p.m. That is George Morgan and the best Irish commentator we have got in these fields. That is going to be an amazing. If this was good, there is going to be that much better. I have no doubt. So please do join us for F1 tomorrow. But we will be back at 8 p.m. next week for France. So that's a real tire chomper. And like I said earlier, if this was anything to go by, that should be great.
I cannot agree more. Make sure you catch up this time next week for that race. But from us, I do believe that it is goodbye. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and make sure once again you tune in tomorrow for the big hitter, the F1 grid, which boasts pretty much a 90% F1 esports grid, and we will see you there. I cannot wait for the rest of the season to get underway at 7 p.m. BST. But very sorry about that one if I said it was 8 p.m. 7 o'clock tomorrow. Make sure you tune in there. But from us, it is thank you and good night.